So, hello everybody. It's good to see you. Good evening or good morning, depending on where you're based. Many familiar faces. It's lovely to have you around. I want to hand it over to Majo Uttila from Finland. Yeah, I think with regards to time, everybody has like about 5 to 10 minutes, like this time range to talk about their stuff. I hope this is fine for you, for everybody.
Absolutely. Yes.
Then we can maybe move over to an open discussion, but it's all yours, Majo. Please take the lead. I'm just sitting here if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. What an exciting event this has been so far, and from this on as well, I'm sure. I'm so happy that there is a traditional architecture gathering. This is such an important event to meet all the people from different parts of the world, sharing the same views, same objectives, and with a great variety of what we can do. Maybe if I can encourage you all to put your cameras on, just to give us a better idea who we are and what we look like and maybe where we come from. There's no time to like introduce everybody in this session, of course. And there are 8 of us presenting fabulous things in the context of architectural uprising. So I hope that we can keep like about 1 hour, I think, reserved to this theme. So I'll share my screen. I have some slides. Some of us don't have slides. Some of us do. Let's take what it takes. And I think that everybody who wants to join this session has now arrived. Am I right? Everybody's here.
I think so, that we can start. Yeah, it's 40
Perfect.
people in this breakout.
Perfect.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So what we are talking now is architectural uprising and architectural uprising international. Wow. So for any of you who don't know anything about architectural uprising, what it's about, it's a people's movement against the continued uglification of our cities. So people from different professional backgrounds, different genders, different occupations, different educations, from different cultures, we are all fed up with the uglification of our cities. That's been long overdue. So this is a rebellion, this is an uprising to get back the beauty to our cities. And why I'm here to be the moderator of this session, because I think I'm one of the original, I would say mother figures maybe of the movement. And Michael Diamant, who will soon have a voice also here, is, I think, the other one of the original father figures. So this is really a very, very nice event in that respect as well. So I started Architectural Uprising in Finland in 2015, and wow, it's been a blast. This has been such a ride and still going strong and bigger all the time. I also have, during these years, done so much for the same objective. So I've done everything in my power to make the change happen in Finland. And maybe one of the craziest things was last year when I was a nominee for the Cultural Personality of the Year. But guess who won? Who was in the same category competing with me? It was Kääriä. So those of you guys who are at least from Sweden know that Kääriä was the Finnish Eurovision Song Contest contestant last year. So he's like a national celebrity and also, at least in Sweden, very well known. So I didn't lose to a bad figure. Well, anyway, what is architectural uprising? Nowadays, this is just a scratch of the surface, these flags here. I think that we are operating now in more than 30 countries. There are also local groups in different countries. At least I lost count in around 300,000 members in different social media platforms, basically. If there's anyone around who knows the exact figure of members right now, please tell us, because it's something like that. We've been in the media quite a lot. If you are reading Bloomberg City Lab, there was a big article about the Scandinavian uprising against modern architecture. Of course, it's spreading outside Scandinavia as well. And some of you might have participated in the recent discussion organized by the esteemed University of Notre Dame School of Architecture about the architectural uprising. And there, one of the persons involved called the architectural uprising the most important phenomenon in architectural discussion since the CIAM. And this is huge, I think. So what does the architectural uprising do? I forgot a slide about publishing about research, but this is also something that we do, of course. We organize competitions. These are the winners. Last week announced winners of Swedish winners of the competition for the most beautiful and the ugliest new building of the year. And well, can anyone say if it's very difficult or very easy to decide which is which if I don't say? Okay, so everyone with eyes can do the or understand what's going on. We also organize counter proposals. This example is from from Finland, and there was a developer's proposal to a Finnish town called Tampere, and that one, of course, is on the right-hand side, and that will be built, by the way. And then there was a counter proposal by a young architecture student, which is on the left, and the local newspaper organized a vote between the two. And of course, 95.5% of the voters would like to see the counter proposal. So this is like a heavy shit, I think. We organize, we publish before and after photos. Many thanks to Michael Diamant, especially. For those of you interested in more, I wrote an article about the emergence of a paradigm shift, basically connecting architectural uprising movement and the new traditional architectural community, you architects, in an aligned union, basically, for common good and for the same objectives. And this was published by the Classic Planning Herald in volume 1. Thank you so much, Nir and guys, for this opportunity. And if you're not a member yet, please join, check out your country, become a member. This is the main site that you can find all the information on the different social media platforms and everything else. So it's architecturaluprising.com and list of all architectural uprising chapters. This is my final slide, just to give an introduction before I let the guys talk as well. And I think that the first one to reflect on the impact of the movement and maybe about the next steps, what would be needed or something like this, should absolutely be Michael Diamant. So welcome, Michael, or Mikael, whatever you want to be called in this context. So please, maybe I can introduce you. So Michael Diamant is the founder of New Traditional Architecture that has helped to popularize the classical architecture tradition through social media. Today, content from his social media pages can be found all over the internet, increasing interest for new traditional architecture and inspiring more to aspire to become a classical architect. While much of his focus has been on content creation, Michael is also regularly interviewed in media and podcasts about his views on architecture and urban planning. So you are a very well-known figure already, but please tell us more.
Yeah, thank you very much for that very nice presentation of me. I've been with this so long, it's 10 years since the Swedish uprising started, and how much have happened since then. It's amazing all the people that we have connected with, and how large this movement have become. Uh, I'm tired of hearing my voice all the time, so I will have a quite short presentation, and I have given more
Okay,
time to Ulrich because I'm really curious about yeah, hearing new voices, in the movement. But I will
perfect.
share my screen and with some slides that I have. So everyone should be able to see my screen now.
Yes, seeing
So
loud and clear.
yeah, basically here's the beautiful logo of the International Architecture Uprising movement. And well, my title is, more of the same and maturing, because that's very much what's happening. You touched it. There are new chapters founded all the time, and at the same time, the old chapters are maturing. So they are growing large, and they are entering the public debate. There are newspaper articles, there are interviews, people, spokespersons from the movements are able to talk in media, and of course, there are the different competitions and such that you mentioned, that create media attention. As mentioned, an explosive growth of new chapters. So these are a few, but probably not all chapters that exist. And I think we cover all of Europe now, basically. There are in 3 Middle Eastern countries, Turkey, Syria, and Israel. I'm very happy for that. We have in India, Latin America, and you have in the States, you have 2 chapters. And I think there is one in Australia as well. So it's really spreading, and there is interest really all over the world. And some of these groups are very small still, but some have matured very much and participate now in the public debate about architecture. Also, and this is very fun, there's increased contact with the practicing classical architects, because very few of them know that we exist, actually. Uh, and that is good in a way because they know that we exist, that we fight for them, and that they have a space where we can make basically free commercial for the work. And they can get, some love from the public. Because of course they know that people like it, but it's extra good, to find out that, people of the world like the work that they do. And then, more of the same, more political and journalistic connections. You mentioned the article in Bloomberg this autumn, a Nordic revolt against the ugly modding. And it's very, very funny because, everyone has this view of Scandinavia as this progressive bastion that we may very well be. So it's a shock for many modernist architects that we in Scandinavia embrace traditional architecture. It's like almost heretical to them. Then we have, so many articles. And now we had one very recently in the April issue of the Spectator World, the uprising, where I was interviewed about the view from the traditional community about the rebuilding about Notre Dame. So there is really, a mainstreaming, that there has become a more and more mainstream awareness that the uprising exists, and that there is an alternative to modernism, that our position that all the ugliness of the modern world is a choice, not a necessity, that there's no rational reason for it other than modernist architects want to build this way. And then, of course, you also mentioned the competition, and the competition makes headlines. It makes headlines in all Swedish newspapers. There have been headlines, and also, it it works as intended. Winning the ugly prize is damaging for a reputation of an architect firm or a city. It's not something that one want. So in that way, we get more and more power. There's also, which is also a theme for this session, the Norwegian explosion, the growth of different initiatives like the Beauty and Ugliness in Architecture conference, the live conference that will be held now in Oslo, the 4th and 5th May. Then you have in Italy, you have 2 conferences now. You'll have one Architectura Picta conference this autumn, and you will have one architecture conference now in Rome in the end of April, also live event about new traditional architecture. So there's also a very, very big growth of different initiative and live conference, and there is a general increased interest in this in so many places, and that's very enjoyable to see. Finally, and this of course existed for more than a year, but there is now an international page of the Architecture Uprising, and of course both a Facebook group and there's an Instagram group that helps to coordinate and assist all the different uprisings, so that everyone gets an instant toolkit and advice how to best make their uprisings grow and get the effect. Because the debate in every country is exactly the same, and the arguments that the modernists will use is exactly the same, and the questions that people have if it's possible to build new traditional architecture is also the same, mainly about costs and craftsmen. So yeah, more of the same, growing and maturing, and we're establishing many good connections, political connections. I can speak specifically of Sweden, of course, because it's here where I live. We met with representatives of the Swedish government. We met in February with them, and there are many political parties now, both left and right, that want to invite. They did it before, of course, but it's accelerating this trend, that want to invite representatives from the Architecture Uprising to speak, why is architecture so ugly in Sweden, and what they as politicians can do about it. So yeah, more of the same, growth, maturing, excellent development, and lovely to see.
Perfect. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you so much, Mikael, for this introduction and speech from your side as well. And then we have Bart Urban. Bart Urban stands up for the beauty and livability of our cities with a passion since his childhood. Besides INTBAU in Germany, Bart is co-hosting the Aesthetic City platform with Ruben Hansen to inspire the world to create better cities. And here you will be giving some insights also about the impact of the architectural uprising and the whole movement. How to go ahead and how to make the impact. Floor is yours, Bart. Bart, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. And yeah, I will do my best to deliver my message in a crisp way because my message is also very simple. It is, let's find peace. Peace with whom? Peace with the modernists.
Wow, that's
and
radical.
Now, that's radical, and you might be shocked to hear this from my side, as I'm propelling the movement for quite a while, but I come to terms with this issue for a bit and figured we definitely need to have a dialogue. We can have this polarization of modernist versus classicist for another decade, for another century, like we already have kind of. But as Nyambura said yesterday so beautifully, the war with modernists is long over. They lost. All they do now is contribute more to global warming. This is a very crisp statement that I really enjoyed hearing. And at the same time, I think we never really are fighting against people, actually. What we are fighting is an ideology. So what do? As even Nyamburas and Leon Krier received modernist training in the beginning, we could call them modernists. But do we fight them? No, we don't. They've been fighting the war themselves, with themselves, and they had to discover, okay, what is really good for the public? What is good for the public realm? What do the people like? What do I like? Because sometimes there's a great fascination with modernism, with glass facades, with megalomaniac projects like the Line in Saudi Arabia. I'm talking to very mindful people who are fascinated by this kind of projects. And at the same time, they appreciate old towns. Of course they do. And from an urbanism point of view, we might despise projects like the Line. But I think we have to be more bold in how we communicate with the public and be more joyful and have a bit more of fun, like I'm having with my funny seaside background here, just to give it a touch of tranquility and joy and blossoming, kind of, you know. And it's also the reason why I joined Ruben Hansen in propelling the mission for the aesthetic city, because I feel we need a new image, a new look, a new design that actually speaks to the people and to the broad public. If we only speak to those who are very traditional, then we have a very small group of people we can talk to. If we give it a more fresh look and a more appealing outfit as we feel fit, then it's much more inviting to people, to young people. Like, we did an amazing job on Instagram lately, where the movement has grown exponentially. It's crazy. And it's done so a lot by doing just funny short videos, of creating memes, of making fun of something, you know.
Perfect.
And that's my statement here that I want to leave you with, is don't argue with the people, don't justify, don't defend yourself, don't explain too much. Invite people, ask people, hey, where do you go on vacation? What kind of places do you enjoy? What were you fascinated by as a child? Did you like cathedrals, castles, all these beautiful old buildings? What did you like before you started studying architecture? Was it that what you liked? And then invite them to look at their fascinations as a child and what got them into architecture, into their interests. Because no person is lost, and we can all recapture them and get them on board with us. And we've seen many people transforming, and there will be many more. So
Exactly.
Yeah, spread love. Thank you.
Spread love. Thank you. This is a very healing message. I think we should take this. Thank you so much. Then we have Ulrich Becker, and I'm so glad to see you very well, although we have very sad news this weekend. You're based in Israel, aren't you? So
yeah, I just went to sleep at 3 o'clock after the barrage.
yes.
So I'm a bit tired.
So I'm very happy that you could join us, and you're the founder of Architectural Uprising in Israel, and you'll be saying something about the educational side needed.
Yes, I will.
Something else as well. Floor is yours. Maybe 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Wow. Okay, so tell me at 3 minutes, and I will see what I will cut the rest. Okay.
Perfect.
So I like the issue here that we are talking about impact and success and recipes for success. Okay, so I don't get into who I am and so on. I had the honor to be in the first issue that Imo also edited. Thank you very much. And I'm not so modernist friendly as Bart was. I understand where it's coming from, but I think there are very important issues here that we have to fight for some things. And okay, so I leave this background out. So Michael also said about this great movement and how fast it is growing. And I had the privilege to, on a Friday morning while cleaning my house, decided I have to open it in Israel too, inspired by Michael and the Facebook groups. I already ran a Facebook group back then about good urban planning in Israel. And then I started also this one. And I'm famous a bit in Israel for just bridging the professional academical gap of explaining what's the problem when I take people in their most nice, loving, beautiful moment and put them in a new built class of the art modernist neighborhood, and they understand right away. I don't have to explain anything that we have a problem. We have a problem. And I'm not talking about the problem because I think we all here know about the problem. I'm trying to go to something much, much higher than the problem. I'm trying to take like 4 points about how we can change the world, or a bit more modest, how we can change the world of how we make this impact. Okay, we understand what's wrong, we understand how it should look like maybe, and what can we do to really do it. So a lot of things are already done, and we are doing them, and all these 3 days, you see a lot of things going on, and for years also. So there's one great way, showing examples, that it is possible, okay? Because modernists will throw all kinds of excuses at you. It's not possible, it's too expensive, it's And the first thing, it is possible, and this is what the architectural uprising greatly does, as well as who was here the last 2 days, especially yesterday with the usage of traditional profiles and mass wall construction, everything like that, just so showing it is possible. Okay, great. Then another thing, which is not so maybe so nice talking about and so beautiful and so on, is the codes, the manuals, the books, changing them. And I think the new urbanists are doing a great job over there, although it's a bit tricky because, let's say in a perfect traditional world, the education of the architecture and planners would be such that you don't need any codes, okay? And codes are also a bit rigid, and we are actually contextual architects, okay? In opposition to modernists who are anti-contextual. And if you're contextual, you don't have a code for the road, okay, this street. You have all kinds of street. You have a more a rural street, an urban street, a wide street, a commercial street, and so on. So there is a problem with codes, but still, I think, especially in the form-based code and so on, things are really happening today in America. More than 50 million people live already under form-based codes, which are, in my opinion, an improvement to the land use codes. There are problems still, okay. And then there is the issue of the schools, and I think I'm sure I forgot some institutions here, and I'm happy that I forgot them, because it means there are more and they are growing, and we have all of these summer schools and so on. I think the next step now, first in this fourth point, we need real schools, like the modernist, like where I studied 5 years, brainwash of modernism, and where each school in my country, for example, is completely modernist. There is even not the summer course, but let's say there is a summer course. Changes few percentage. We need real schools with all these great minds in our generation. I also think the last decades, what happened in planning, from traditional planning or new urbanism, with these great minds, and people just today I think Nir gave this overview about the giants, standing on the shoulders of giants, and add to this Leon Crier and Andres Douani and Douglas Douani and all these people, and they have to give the torch on, okay? They write books, great, but we need schools, okay? This is one, I think, big thing. But even if we have, let's say in a few years, there will be more than one Notre Dame, okay? There will be in each country one school at least where you can really, with credits and everything, and getting a degree and so on, you can study traditional architecture and urban planning. Still, a subject where we, I think, are not that much into it right now are institutions, politics, processes, which are very important and which are not so, maybe for architects, not so interesting. And I'm in Israel trying for some years now to get these things forwards. And the pinnacle was I went to the Knesset, to the parliament, to speak about urban planning and urban renewal and so on. And they give you like few seconds, much less than here even. And they asked me, okay, I tried to convince them and said, okay, you know what? Let's say I'm with you. What law you want me to pass? And this completely blew me out of. I had no idea what law. I mean, I wanted to convince you. And now, let's see, for us now, let's say everybody's convinced now, or 80% of the public is convinced, and the politicians, what we do now. And then for years, I'm now puzzling together what should be changed also in legislation, which is quite complicated. And I think I would go with Andrei Strani here that says, don't be a new modernist dictator that everybody has to be traditional. No, just level the playing field, make good things possible, and they will come, because we know to all of these studies that 80% are here. Okay, so you don't have to be a dictator to bring on traditional. You just have to make it possible. And the tricky thing about that is you have to, in each country, to check it. Okay, I can't tell you in Germany now or in France or whatever, which law stops traditional good stuff to happen. Hey, you have to dig in, and I think everyone in each country should make like a little list or a little document what things are really stopping, or really, often it's even not laws, it's other things. Okay, and then I will close here with the difference between the modernist planner and the traditional planner. And as you know, I think the modernist planner is like he's the lone, he's standing alone. Okay, he's fighting. He tries to be different from everybody else, even from other architects, and he does not need any books, and everything is inspiration and so on. And the nice thing about the traditional, actually what we are doing here, that we are so many different people that are talking about the tradition and connecting and helping, and we have the common goal and so on. And as they say, standing on the shoulders of giants is actually meaning tradition. And I think there are 3 points about this, in 3 levels you can look on that. First, master and teacher. And I think also that should come back into in our educational system, that you have a partly even master student part in this, okay? Or where are you very practical, and then you have also academic. And then the other giant is the tradition itself, not just your personal master, the tradition, the trade, the craft. And the third one, the highest level, is the truth, ideal, and even then the divine. Because I think that modernists are fighting actually is that there is an ideal, okay, that you can measure things, that you can say this is good and this is not good. But they're relativists. They hate that. And the funny thing is they always tell us, the modernists always tell the planners, you have to think out of the box. And I always tell them, you don't even know how the box looks. You never saw them. Okay.
Perfect.
So I stop here. I just say also the last point about this. I'm working in local government and regional government, which I think we should also do. I do it a bit like not for the money, but let's say, but really to change things. And the nicest thing is if you meet modernist architects and you are the government and you tell them, sorry, what's that? I want to see something more traditional. They're completely shocked. They don't know what happened. They are like, you know, they have no natural enemies in the food chain. And suddenly the government comes and say, I want something traditional. This is too modernist. This is ugly. They are completely shocked. And I think we need also in this direction to go. And that's it. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ulrich, for these thoughts. These were very important recipes for change. And now we go ahead with the Norwegian volcano, not less than a volcano, absolutely. So we have 4 guys from
Just
Norway
one comment from
representing.
my side. We want to give everybody a platform, but we unfortunately need to keep it to around 5 minutes. Sorry for being the party.
All together or per person?
Don't take it personal. It's a little.
No. All together 5 minutes.
No. For each one.
Yes, we know. Absolutely, we know.
Thank you.
So we start with Bart Urban, who is a filmmaker, writer, and the founder of the Cave of Apelles YouTube media channel. Check out Cave of Apelles in YouTube, unless you already know it. So please, Bart, give us your fantastic thoughts. I think you have very interesting things for us to understand where it all started. Some main points in the history, maybe, and then we go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I will try to be quick. So I have a presentation here. Can people see it? No, I have to share my screen, right?
Perfect.
Yeah. So just briefly, I come from a family of painters, classical painters. But we have a very holistic, and we consider all things classical. We listen to classical music, and we read the classics, you know, all of it. And I think that's very important for this movement, that to have a holistic view, to not get stuck, for example, only in classical architecture and then listen to rock music on the side and be a modern person otherwise. Because if this is going to have if this is going to get a solid foundation, we need the whole view. We need to have a holistic view. It's also important to know where we came from, what happened, how did this happen, this nightmare that we're dealing with now, to understand how to deal with it going forward. And I want to start by going back to ancient Greece, of course, where the classical culture originated. So Protagoras has a very nice saying, man is the measure of all things. And you can interpret that in a few ways, but to me it's very obvious that it means literally what he is saying, that it's all about the human being. And when you see in ancient Greece, the amazing thing they did, and they were the first to do it as far as I know, they made the gods the gods manifested as human beings. And here you have the caryatids on the Acropolis. They went further, and some would consider that blasphemy, that the Greeks actually thought that God's creation wasn't good enough. They wanted to improve it. And so they made a more beautiful version of man, which you can see in their sculptures that have elongated torsos and smaller heads. And the proportions are actually more beautiful than God's creation of man, which is astonishing. And that is the classical project, in my opinion, that we improve upon nature, that we make something more beautiful than God's creation. We elevate God's creation. And lastly, about ancient Greece, the sculptures or the craftsmen in ancient Greece, it's unfathomable for us today to think about how much influence and power they had. One sculptor could make a single sculpture and earn 3,000 drachmas, which was the equivalent of a year's wage for an average person. And they had political power. Many of these sculptors, they held positions of power, which maybe something similar happened in the Renaissance, but unthinkable today. And of course, the Renaissance continued on the same project, but not, in my opinion, not as strong as the ancient Greeks. But the interesting thing about the Renaissance, going back to the holistic view, is that Brunelleschi, for example, and many others, they were not only architects, but also goldsmiths and sculptors, painters. They were many things at once. You don't have to be only an architect. You can excel in other fields as well. That was a mindset in the Renaissance that we have lost very much today. An interesting thing about the Renaissance, which is also very different from today, was that if you were a craftsman, you were... So there's this anecdote about Leonardo. and the Madonna
We
of the
don't have
Rocks.
time. We don't have time. So
we don't have time.
Tell us what went wrong. Tell us what went
Well,
wrong.
okay, I will. Well, the point was that a wood carver earned as much as Leonardo, the man making the frame in the Renaissance, which is very strange for us today. Okay, going forward, this book is. I want everyone to pay attention here. Everyone should read this book to understand where we came from, how modernism came into being. Modern art was an 18th century invention. This is a quote by Larry Shiner, who wrote this book. So 1737, a new word is born, modernism, which is quite shocking. You know, we would think this was a modern phenomenon from the 20th century, but the word came into being in the mid-1700s or 1737, and it meant the same thing as it does today, a deviation from the ancient and classical manner. And then in 1746, Charles Bateau invents the modern distinction of art and science. He coins the term fine arts, which is an umbrella term for painting, sculpture, music, gesture, dance, and poetry, which is the same. We're using the same word today. We have just taken away fine, and now we call it art. And this was very damaging, what Charles Bateau did here, in good faith. He had good intentions, but it was the if you can picture an ice what do you call it, on the water, and someone puts an axe in the middle, and craft is on one side, and divine inspiration and poetry on the other. Charles Bateau hit the axe in the middle, and they started drifting apart. So craft started drifting apart from the mind, the divine, the poetic, the inspiration. And it led to the situation that we have today, where a craftsman has no respect anymore. And then the year afterwards, and this is interesting for the architecture uprising to know, they made the very first separation between engineers and architects. It became two different fields of study. So you no longer had the holistic view as the one building master. And then in 1774, Alexander Gerard replaces the idea of invention in the service of imitation with the idea of creation as an end in itself. So the science became like a religion in the negative sense, that if you made something new, it had more value than if you made a good imitation, if you made something of good craft. So the 18th century is what everyone should be paying attention to here if they want to understand where modernism came from. Modernism has deeper roots than most people are aware of, I think. They think it's something that just suddenly appeared in the end of the 19th century, but that's not true. And since it has such deep roots, it's also a very strong force. It's something that's very hard to get rid of. Copernicus came with the idea that man is not the center of the universe. And then Immanuel Kant, man does not know anything. Charles Darwin, man is just an animal. Karl Marx, all men are equally bad. Sigmund Freud, all life is meaningless. And here we are today. And then I asked the question, what made the Renaissance possible? Because that's what we have to think about now going forward. And we have a paralyzed mind. This is important. Our mind is paralyzed. We have more possibilities than ever to make the most beautiful societies, yet we are not able to. How is this possible? It's a block in the mind. Okay, I will leave it there.
Thank you so much. These are very valuable points about the actual origins of modernism and the way things are now. So, but we should absolutely understand what made Renaissance possible to make the new Renaissance right now, where we are now. And then we have Anders Hagalisletto from Norwegian Volcano as well. And For the last 3 years, he's been publishing numerous papers in Norwegian newspapers about the failures of modernism. And he is currently the manager of the conference Beauty and Ugliness in Architecture that's coming up in on the first weekend of May, so which everybody should join. So Anders, are you hearing me? And the floor is yours. What's your wisdom? Strategy for societal change, perhaps?
So my talk is called Urban Planning: 1 Step Backwards and 2 Step Forwards. I think that's a good title, because let me see if it works. I cannot control my, because I cannot.
And you have like 4 minutes.
Yeah, but I cannot control my. Yeah. So this is the reason why I'm here, because I have a daughter. So I was over 50 years old because I ever wrote anything in public. But then I have a daughter, and she discovered a paradise inside my town, Oslo, when she was a high school student. Look here, this is fantastic. When she studied at the music high school in Oslo. It's called Grünerløkka, a truly beautiful paradise from the 1890s. What is this? And then the uprising started, and she pushed me to just join in. She eagerly wrote paper after paper as a 17-year-old girl. And I thought to myself, I should really join here. I should not be silent anymore. I mean, it's her future and her children's future. So I started finding my own roots, and they are actually in this beautiful part of the town called Grünerløkka in Oslo, made by mostly Norwegian architects, being inspired by German education. And in contrast, many other architecture schools in the 19th century, the drawing school in Kristiania, they recruited a lot of carpenters, and crafts was a very integral part of their study. So this man to the right, Georg Andreas Bull, he planned this fantastic place, which is still existent. It's not demolished. So what I did with my little capabilities was that I arranged a conference last year in order to bring James Stevens Curl to the attention of Norwegians, and with a lot of short talks, and meeting him and meeting people in physical life, in ordinary old-fashioned real life, was very good. So we're going to do another much larger conference in a few weeks in Oslo in the same. It's called Beauty and Ugliness in Architecture, same name, 2024, where many of the contributors to this conference will participate. So the Norwegian uprising is the anti-modernists in Oslo and Norway is very strong, getting stronger every day. So this is from the panel last year, and then we had an architecture trip, and there is also some very good news, because teaching, as Ulrich said, is enormously important. So we have lost the link back to teaching from the 19th century and 17th, 16th. So what has happened in Norway is that public school in architecture is slowly, in secrecy, converting into traditional architecture. So these are to the left, to the right, there are 2 of the new students. They are 22, 23 years old. And then to the left is the very first building they proposed. So my personal stake is also traditional architecture, vernacular architecture, and traditional urban planning. So my family roots are from coastal areas where shipping and boats in wood and houses in wood is very central. So this is a picture from this coastal town Arendal, which started actually the preservation, the modern preservation history of cultural environments in a very vibrant manner in 1969. So you still have wood urban fabric in a small town. Now, just 1 month ago or 2 months ago, there was a discovery at NTNU. So what we want to learn is, how did they teach architecture? How did they learn architecture? And a completely forgotten lady, Jacobine Marie Selmer, her complete catalog of drawings from her study at Kristiania Drawing School was found and got public 1 month ago. So now we are a lot of people digging into that, her drawings, her courses, what she produced. So now I'm finished. The Norwegian Uprising, the architecture uprising and the anti-modernists are making enormously many small alliances. There's no way to get a real push to change things if you are not scholarly and well read. So what is happening the last year is that the last 12 months is that a lot of people are reading and reading and reading, building up their competence. Not so much the architects, but at least the public around, the cultural historians, the anti-modernists. So that is what is going on from my side. So thanks a lot. This was short enough.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is so valuable. This is so valuable. Thank you so much for your great work in Norway. And of course, there's also Carl and Tor who have not yet been able to speak. So I hope you're still with us and can share your insight. So I'll introduce Carl Korsnes, who is a Norwegian philosopher, and he's also the editor-in-chief and co-founder of the Civilization magazine, which has become a pillar magazine within the classical movement in Norway. So, Carl, can you share us a little bit about your work and the role of media, how you see the role of media in the architectural uprising phenomenon?
Yeah,
Carl,
absolutely.
there.
And I will stay short and share
Perfect.
just some brief history of the magazine and also some learning points that we had. So the Civilization magazine was founded soon about 5 years ago by people who wanted to revitalize the classical ideas within culture and thought. And we experienced that there were many isolated environments within painting, for instance, architecture and other cultural fields that seemed, and this was 5 years ago, seemed more interested in complaining about the modernism instead of actually making a change. And this was before the architectural uprising really stood out in Norway. So we first thought this would just be a very small personal blog, but then it gained very much attention. So to us, it's obvious that people out there really are interested in classical culture in general. And when we published the first physical copy, the first magazine in 2020, we did write an article series that said that there is a new wave in architecture. There's a new classical wave in architecture. And when we wrote that, we were thinking that, well, this is pushing it far. This is not true. It's basically a lie. So we were really discussing like editorial ethics because we really had to dig deep to find the positive examples of classical buildings. But we did write it, and to us that shows how you can like shape the future in writing how you like want it to be, and maybe then it turns out ending up like that if the movement is really going on. So that is part of one of our main strategies, is not to complain simply, but to offer solutions. So instead of writing numerous articles about modernist buildings that we do not like and do not approve of, we write about the positive examples when it comes to all different disciplines, cultural disciplines. And that is our strategy. And if we then choose to write a criticism about something terrible modernist theater piece, building, painting, then we do offer an alternative view. So we always offer what we are positive of. And also what Bart is mentioned, the holistic view, that my background is in philosophy, and I believe that liking classical architecture and simultaneously liking modernist abstract art is an unphilosophical attitude. And if we want a revolution in architecture, a classical revolution, we need a revolution in aesthetics in general. I don't think that the one can happen without the other one. Yeah, I will keep it to that.
Perfect. Thank you. That was a very, very good note to end your speech. Thank you for doing great job in Norway. And then we have time for Tor Ostigard, who is an architect himself. And tell us about your story as an architect in Norway.
Yes, thank you. All right, I have a small point I would like to make, which is nostalgia for the future, or nostalgia in general. I will talk a little bit about my role in Norway in relation to that. I was a modernist architect long before I entered architecture school. I was a modernist throughout the education, so I welcomed the brainwashing at the time. This is some of my student work, where you can see like flying houses. And I turned classist architect sometime after studying. And in retrospect, when I look at this now, what I see is nostalgia for the future. I was, politically not radical, but I want to change, and society should move towards something better every day. That was my attitude in general. And I think this is what I've been, now that I'm turned classical, I'm thinking about the people who still appreciate modernist architecture. And I think what they are seeing in that is the future, that the future will be better, that we will have, everything will be better tomorrow than it was before. And modernist architecture is a representation of that. So what I've been doing in Norway is to try to criticize modernist architecture by being very specific. So it's so easy to be nostalgic. I mean, people criticize the classical architects for being nostalgic about the past, but in fact, the modernists are just equally nostalgic about the future. So they think that the future will hold cars that fly, we will eat pills for breakfast instead of food. This is how people are thinking about the future. But in the future, people will use buttons instead of zippers, even though they were invented 100 years ago. We will eat normal food. So the future will always look a lot more than like our times now than we think. So I'm trying to get beyond this nostalgia in either direction and criticize modernist architecture for how it looks like, and support classical architecture for how it looks like, that it looks better, people appreciate it. And I've been writing a lot about fractals because it makes people look at what it is more than just what it represents. So this has been my role, I think, for quite some time. And then along this, I've also been trying to retrain myself in something completely different for quite some years, going through this classical education that I never had, and trying to make more design and less writing, because now the movement is gaining volume. A lot of people are writing, a lot of people are criticizing, and I think I'm trying to be more of the solution than highlighting the problem. So that's been the role in this context for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And this is really, I'd like to say that you are a recovering architect. So maybe, healing is the word here as well. So you've been left astray, and then now you're coming back to the way. Okay, I see that we are at the end of the breakout rooms, and we have 47 seconds to go and to see the rest of the conference with fabulous giants. So thank you all who joined, and thank you all who wrote something to the chat, and thanks everybody from the audience as well. And I hope to continue.
Mario, you get the prize for the best moderator at this tag.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate. Is it a diploma?
It's a diploma, yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you very, very much.